So while views are not tools for performance, a materialized view is a tool for performance. So this is what I saw when I ran it last week, 293,871. That is a too expensive query, no matter how you choose to slice and dice it. But let's say you really, really care about movie or actors and actresses that tend to act in the same sorts of films, and that's really important to your application. We need some way to track that then, right? So you show your boss that scenario, your boss is like, this is amazing, great job, engineer, go build the page that does this. You lose your mind because you are running 4-second queries. You cannot ship something like that. So you know that you need to do some sort of performance optimization here. So I'm a product manager now, so I think of everything in terms of like user requirements and user journeys. Let's talk about your product requirements here. You want to show your user cool graphs and stuff from data from your database. The query that you get is really expensive. But think about it. Actors and actresses do not release movies every day. They release maybe a movie a day, maybe 10 movies a day. Not very many movies per day are released, which is to say that if you have a user that's querying on day-old information, that's fine, totally an acceptable cost, which means that this is a very cacheable kind of thing. So let's talk about what kind of caching strategies you might use. You might have something like Redis, where you just run this query once per day, and then you populate a Redis cache or a Memcache cache. This would be a good use for something like LinkedIn has a product called Voldemort, where it's like stores intermediaries. There's a myriad of others. You could have your app servers cached in memory, right? There's another thing you can do there. I'm going to show you how you do it directly at the database level, called a materialized view. The advantage here is we're going to create a view that's actually a cache. And the nice thing about this is it's still a table, so you can still do joins off of the materialized view as well. You get all of the performance benefits, and you get all of the view benefits of it being useful. The only downfall is that it's cached, right? It's not actually running the query. It's actually making a separate table and storing it. And it's not running the query again, it's just keeping the results. So the only difference on how you make them is instead of saying create view, which I could definitely just leave this out and it would just create another view. It would just be a very, very slow view. But if you put materialized here, it's going to cache it. So I'm going to create materialized view. It's going to be that same query. The only thing down here is I added with no data. But let's do that really quick. So you can see there it took no time, which is suspicious because we know it's a very slow query. When I put with no data here, I created the materialized view and I did not populate it yet. Because again, this is a really expensive query. You may not want to run that materialized view immediately. You might want to wait till downtime, right? So if I say select star from, what did we call it? Actor categories. It's going to be like, you can't do that because you didn't populate it. Just to show you, it does show up here. Here's actor categories. It's a materialized view. So how do we populate it? I actually told us right there. You just say refresh materialized view. I'm going to run that, and I'm going to say actor categories, and then now this is going to be slow. Okay, it's done. So to sum that up, we did it with no data. You can say with data. If I put with data there instead of with no data, it'll immediately run the query for the first time and populate it. But now I have this cached version of this query. And again, this is actually using a view directly in it as well, which is kind of cool, right? So the materialized view is kind of downstream from the view. But if I do a bunch of updates to actors' roles, movies, and movie IDs and stuff like that, that's not going to affect this query because it's cached, right? So every time that I want to update that, I'm going to have to say, again, refresh materialized view, because that data will get stale over time. It will not update that cache until I run that again. But the nice thing is I run it once, and then all my users can query from it instead of having every user query the really expensive query. Do you understand the trade-off there? You're trading off slightly stale data for tons of query performance. So what did I have up here? Did I just ask for order by descending? So if I say order by, what did we order by in the other one? Count, descending, limit 10. Okay, so this is what we saw before. If you remember, that was almost 300,000. If I say explain analyze now, we went down from 290,000 to 88,000. We went down from 4 seconds to 200 milliseconds. We are definitely going in the right direction. That's still pretty expensive, right? Why? Why is that still expensive? Well, let's see how many are in the table. Select count star from actor categories. There are 4.1 million rows. That's a lot, right? Because if you think about it, every actor that's been in any category ever has a row. That's a lot of permutations. That's going through a lot of rows to figure out that order by. That order by is actually what's making it really expensive. You can see it's doing a gather merge. That's what the part that's actually going to be really expensive there. One more thing that I wanted to tell you. Every time that you run this one right here, refresh materialized view, if you do it like this, it locks the table, which can be really scary. Let's say I had that actors categories page on my website, and I ran this in the background, and someone then tried to query it while it was being refreshed. It locks the table, which means that that query would fail or it would wait. One of the two. That's bad, right? And it also, I think it locks the underlying tables as well. That might be true. That one I'm less sure about. Anyway, locks are scary. That's my point. You can do something that says refresh materialized view concurrently. So if I added concurrently after this, it's going to go way slower, but it won't lock the table. Yeah, it doesn't lock the underlying tables. It just locks the view. Now I remember that. But if I did this, I'm scared to even run it. I don't know. Concurrently, let's just do it. Oh, well. Apparently you have to do some stuff to get the concurrently to work, but suffice to say, if you don't want to lock the table, you have to set up your view in such a way, and then you can do concurrently, and that will not lock the table.